My name is Bethany Wray, and I'm a teaching artist with Meadow Arts, a nonprofit art organization located in Twist, Washington. Those of us at Meadow Arts know that this is an unusual time of the year and that you're most likely doing a lot of your learning from home. The great thing about art is that you can do it pretty much anywhere, like I am right outside. I'm going to do some art outside with you today. So we are going to use our creativity and our imaginations today to make our own self-portraits. What you will need for this project is a piece of paper, pencil, eraser. I have a large eraser, but you can just use whatever eraser you have at home, and a mirror. Go ahead and pause the video, gather all of these materials, and then press play when you're ready to continue. But before we get started on creating a self-portrait, what is a portrait? Well, a portrait is a work of art that depicts a person. Maybe you recognize this very famous portrait. Do you know what this title is? Do you know what art this is? I'm going to give you a moment to guess. It's the Mona Lisa by artist Leonardo da Vinci. So this is an example of a portrait of a person that Leonardo da Vinci did, and it's kind of from her waist up. So this is one example of a portrait, and it's also head on, so she's facing forward. If you were to do a portrait of a person from the side, it would be a profile. So this is just one example. Another example is of contemporary artist Kehinde Wiley, and these are all very realistic portraits. Realistic means it looks like real life. But for another example that's a little bit different is this portrait by Pablo Picasso. Does this look very realistic? No, not at all. This is actually abstract. So abstract art is not made to look like real life. It instead focuses on shapes and colors. So Pablo Picasso is doing a little bit of experimenting by using shapes and colors in this portrait. So those are just some examples of portraits done. Well, today we're going to make a self-portrait. What's a self-portrait? Well, self-portrait is a portrait of yourself. So a self-portrait is whenever the artist decides to make a painting of themselves. And that's what we're going to do today. Also, just a reminder, feel free to pause the video at any point. We're going to be covering a lot today. So if you need to pause and catch up, and then once you've caught up, then just press play and we can get started again. All right. So hopefully by now you have all of your materials, you know a little bit more about what a portrait means, so we're ready to get started. The first thing that we're going to do to make the basic shape of our head is we're going to start out by drawing a circle. To illustrate this a little bit better, I have this image of myself, so this is the portrait I did of myself here. And if you look at it closely, you'll notice that my head is formed of a circle and kind of this U shape underneath. So altogether, it kind of looks like an egg. So that's what we're going to go for in this first step. But you know what? It's really hard to draw a perfect circle in your first go. So what I like to do is I like to draw a lot of light circles repeating on top, so top of my paper. So I'm going to hold my pencil kind of further back with my fingers. And I'm going to actually keep my arm pretty still. I'm going to lock my elbow for the most part. I'm not going to move my wrist, but I am going to move my whole arm. And I'm going to go round and round. Keep it light, because what's easier to erase? Light lines or dark lines? Ooh, light lines, right? So we keep it light when we first start out on a drawing. Okay? So over and over and over again, remember not to use your wrist to draw your circles, because when you use your wrist, you actually can't move that big. You can't make a nice big circle shape. So you want to make sure you move your whole arm. So I have something kind of like this. You want to take up about half of your page, okay? Now don't worry about all these many lines. You might be going, oh my gosh, that's so messy. but we're going to leave it like this for right now, okay? We're going to start out loose, and then we're going to refine the edges a little bit more. So once you've drawn your circle, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to figure out what the furthest edges of your circle is. So they're right about here, kind of about midway, halfway. And I'm going to make a little mark on either side. Now I'm going to draw kind of that hammock shape. I like to say that I'm hanging a hammock underneath. So I'm going to go along and lightly, okay, lightly draw, because once again, if I need to make a change, it's easier to do it if I draw nice light lines, okay? And yep, it's just like hanging a little hammock, all right?
Okay, now that you have the shape of the head, you can go ahead and erase the circle inside. And once you've erased the circle inside the head shape you just finished drawing, we're going to continue by dividing the face in half, both vertically and horizontally. I like to make little marks on the top and the bottom of the face to show me where about halfway is. Once you've made those little marks on top and bottom, then you can draw the line through vertically. Now do the same for a line that divides the face in half horizontally. Make little marks and then use those marks to guide your line across.
All right, so now that you've divided the face in half, both vertically and horizontally, so it should look a little something like this, we are going to add the eyes. So the eyes actually sit just below that halfway mark, and the spacing in between the eyes is actually an eye in between. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a shape of an eye and then the eyes on either side. And the total width of your face is 5 eyes across. So I'm going to lightly draw that eye in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to add on the 2 eyes on either, see what I did there? Either side. And it's okay, it can just be like a little almond shape. We'll really refine the shape of your eye later, but for right now, just get sort of those almond shapes in there. And then double check to make sure that it's 5 eyes wide that your face is. So I'll use my pencil as a form of measurement. I'll put the point on one end and then I'll count 1, 2, 3, okay? 1, 2, 3. So if you start from the middle, you should count that eye and over. And so altogether you should have 5 eyes for the width. So now that I've got that in there, I can erase that middle eye because that's just kind of distracting. You don't really have an eye in the middle. And I want you to look in the mirror and notice the shape of your eyes. And you're going to focus on drawing the line, just that line above on the top of your eye. So I'm going to start out by drawing that curve. And just because I'm drawing my eye in a certain way doesn't mean your eye looks like mine. So I want you to really pay attention to what you see in the mirror. So even though I'm not looking back and forth at the mirror right now, I want you to definitely keep looking at the mirror and notice what you see. Also, notice little tear ducts. Okay, make sure you draw those in there. I'm going to draw this little curve. And then I'm going to do the line underneath my eye to connect. So up and over, okay? So now we're ready to draw our pupils. And just like we did with the circle earlier, I'm just going to do some nice light circles. So round and round and round, over and over and over again, okay? And get some circles in there. And remember, go around a couple times. And then once you have a nice circle, just define the edge just like we did with the head. So you're going to darken up the edge here and there. Okay? And then after you've done the shape of the eye, or at least the pupil, we're going to go in and add in, well, actually, the iris is the colorful part of your eye. Now we're going to go in and do the pupil. This is that dark spot of your eye. And then shade it in. Okay? And I do a little C shape. It's kind of like a backward C. And the reason why I'm doing a C shape is because I want to leave a little bit of the light reflecting off the eyeball, so that shows up. All right, so now we're ready just for these last little details, like your eyebrow and then the wrinkle on top of your eye, and then you might even have some lines underneath your eyeball. So we're going to add those in now. And I'm just going to lightly draw just to make sure I like the shape first. So I'm going to draw on top. Okay? And then from there we're going to add in the eyebrows. Now I want you to look at your eyebrows. Woo, it's windy out here. And I want you to notice the direction of your eyebrows. So they're little lines going in a very particular direction. So mine kind of go up and they go and then over. So I want you to do the very same thing with lots of little lines. Think about little lines stacked on top of one another and what direction they're going. Okay, so I'm just doing little lines and they're kind of going diagonally as I go further out. Okay, so now we got our eyes. Awesome. You might even want to put like a line underneath right here for where your eye socket is. It's kind of when it gets really baggy when you get tired. So we got our eyes in, and now we're ready for our nose. So you're going to draw a line that separates this bottom part. So you're going to go across. So we're going to cut this bottom part in half. And again, I'm just going to draw a nice light and loose line. From there, the tip of your nose is kind of like a circle. So I'm just going to draw a nice loose circle, round and round again, to show me where that spot is. So once I've done that, I'm going to now draw a little shape, kind of like it holds the circle just underneath, and that's going to be the tip of my nose and the edges of my nostril. So I'm going to go from one end, and then it kind of goes up and under. So it's cupping the little ball we just drew. Once you've done that, then you can go ahead and erase that little circle we drew because we don't need that anymore. And once you've done that, then you're ready to just draw the edges, the outside edges of your nose and the nostrils. So this is what I got so far. And now I'm just going to draw the edges of the nostrils, and they're just going to be these C shapes again. Again, your nostrils might look a little different than mine, so make sure you're looking at that mirror. And I need to change my mirror a little bit. Okay, but my nostrils are kind of like this. So that's the shape I'm drawing. Great, so now I have my nose in. The very last thing that you want to draw for your nose is the bridge of your nose. So if you feel with your fingers right here, that's the bridge of your nose. So I'm just going to draw two parallel lines running down to be the bridge of my nose. Great, so now we have our nose and we're ready for our mouth. So our mouth actually goes down 1/3 of the way down from our nose. So, sorry, not 1/3 of the way. So if you split this section into thirds, right here, this whole section, it's about 1/3 of the way down. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually split this lower chin section into thirds by drawing light lines across. So it's kind of like a measuring cup. Okay, we're creating those little lines that are telling me where things are going to go. So I've drawn 3 lines, or I should have 3 lines. We've drawn 2, but you should have 3. So now we're going to put our lips, the top of our lips, just below this line, right underneath the little nose, or just below the nose. But before we do any sort of drawing with the shape of the mouth, you're going to draw a line down from the middle of the eye to the bottom of the chin, because your mouth, the width of your mouth is about the size of the bottom of your eye down to the corners of your mouth. So it's about the middle down. So I've drawn lines. I'm ready to go ahead and place in my mouth. And the tip of my lips right here are like, I have two circles right here on the very top of my lips. So I'm going to draw two little circles. And this is going to be very similar to the way that we drew the nose. So instead of kind of something cupping, it's going to be like we're riding a bike up and over these little hills, okay? So you're going to start out from the edge of that line where we drew from the middle of the eye down, and we're going to like ride over those two little hills that we just drew with the circles. So I'm going to go up and over, okay? And you kind of want to keep just the edges of the lines as they go out, kind of curve them a little bit so it looks like you're smiling. We don't want any frowns here. And then you're going to draw the middle line. That's kind of doing the opposite as that top line, okay? And then you're just going to fill in the lower lip. And make sure you're looking at the mirror. How big is your lower lip? For a lot of people it might be bigger, but for you it might be smaller. So it just depends, right? All right, got my lips in there. We're not going to do any teeth today because teeth are complicated. So we're just going to focus on just doing lips and mouth. So once you've got your lips in there, you are ready to erase away all those lines. Those lines are super distracting. We don't need those anymore. So we've cleaned up our face. The very last thing we got to do is put in our ears. Our ears, how high our ears are the height of the top of my eyes. If I were to draw a line, so if I draw a line from the top of my eyes over and from the bottom of my nose over, that's how high my ears are. So that's what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to draw a line over from the top of my eyes and the bottom of my nose. Just make a little mark. Okay, and if you want to, you don't have to draw a line through the face again. You can just see where the bottom of your nose is and move over and make a little mark. And then you're going to draw your ears. So some ears come out a little more, some ears not so much. Try the best you can to draw the shape of your ears. You might notice that the tip of your ears show up the most, and then as it goes down, you just see very little of your ear towards the bottom. So I'm going to draw the top of my ear as showing up the most, and then just the bottom of my ear lobe, is going to be smaller. So just look in the mirror and do your best. Okay? And it's okay if it's not perfect. Portraits are hard. It takes a lot of practice to do great portraits. So just do the best you can. Okay? And now I'm just erasing away the extra lines. Hooray, we have a face. Woo, but we're bald. So we need some hair. If you have hair. I mean, you could have a different hairstyle. You could have very short hair. So I'm going to draw the shape of my hair. And I'm going to do a part down, because I have a little part here, and then over. Okay, and then same thing. So when I say draw the shape of your hair, you're not drawing all the individual lines. You're just thinking, oh, what's this outside edge of my hair? And you're going to draw that. Okay, I'm going to add some lines in, add some lines in. Okay, and then I'm just going to draw my hair as if I have it in a ponytail for right now. So I can move on to the next section, which you might want to put a neck on your head, because otherwise you're just kind of floating around. So your neck is kind of the same width as if you drew a line from the edges of your eyes down. So I'm going to just draw some lines down, and that's about my neck. Okay, feel free to also, If you want to also draw the shirt that you have that you're wearing today, that's totally fine. And then just kind of do a circular neckline and then shoulders that go over too. I actually think my neck is a little too thick. There we go. All right, and you have a self-portrait. Yay! Thank you so much for creating with me today. Save your portraits, or self-portraits, because there is a part 2 to this lesson. So make sure to look out for the part 2 so we can build on what we learned today.